Hi everyone, we're back in the craft room today. It's a rainy day outside, kind of gray and gross. Typical Vancouver day, I think they'd call it. So I decided I was going to do a little bit of quilling today. I'm going to do another heart. So what I've done is, let me just turn the camera around and I'll show you. So here we are. I have my corkboard, handy dandy corkboard that I found at the thrift store. I've cut out an asymmetrical heart because that's the way I like them. And what else? Oh, yeah, I'm just sitting here in my craft room. I'm super casual today, so just excuse what's going on here. In fact, I'm going to go put on a movie and do this and tape it so you guys won't have too much sound. Maybe I'll do a little voiceover later. But other than that, so I've got my glue. This is the glue that I tend to use. It's upside down right now because it is a very thick glue. Arlene's tacky glue. This stuff is great. It works on everything. I have had a lot of really good success with it. I did find a clear version, which I'm going to try. But you know, why open more than one glue bottle at a time? So this is what I use. I'll put a link below to it if you want to get some for yourself. These are just strips of paper that I cut. There's a little video that I'll insert in here and you can see. I got an old paper cutter, an old Boston paper cutter that I used to use at work from the thrift store, the kind I used to use at work. I found one at the thrift store and I picked it up. Dave sharpened the blade up for me and it was great to go. So we have our cutout of our heart. We have our quilling awl. I like to use an awl. I do also have a quilling, I don't know what you call it. Quilling dealie with a slot in the end. You put your paper and you roll it. But for these guys, they're kind of a little bit too big for that. So I'm just going to do this. If you don't have an awl or you don't have access to a proper quilling tool, you can start very simply with like a bamboo boost. A bamboo skewers. That's the high-end bamboo skewers. No, so just the ones that you would use on your barbecue, put your shrimps on in the summertime. And you can start with one of those. Or, you know, really anything thin and round that you have in your home. You could probably even use a stick of incense if you wanted. So I'm going to do a pink heart today. The colored pages are out of scrapbook paper that I just cut. And the blue may or may not go in there. Let's see, because there is a little bit of green in this pattern. And so let's get started on that. And we'll show you how that works. The first thing you want to do is soften up your paper a little bit, and you generally do this the same way that you would if you were trying to make curlies on a gift. You know, if you're wrapping a gift and you put some ribbon around it, you want to make it all curly. Well, same thing. So you're just going to slide your awl along the paper and loosen things up a little bit. Here I decided to put a couple of colors together, and this is the only place in the whole heart where I used this pink shade, because once I actually put it in there, I didn't really like it all that much. But there wasn't much I could do. You will see a little bit later in the video that I went ahead and kind of tried to cover that as much as I could with another just little slip of paper glued on top of it. Anyway, see that. So what I'm doing here is I'm gluing two pieces together at the top. I've softened them both up. And so to show you how to put a little bit of a layer in the paper, there are a couple of different ways to do this. I find this the easiest. Just put a little dab of glue on the underside and then line them up where you want them and leave a little bit of a curl in there. You can do as much of a space in there as you like. You could do 3 layers if you want. We'll show you that another day, how to make it super fancy. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and curl it out the back side by doing the exact opposite of what we did before. Get the awl rolling along the paper. And the nice thing about doing that is you will start to, arthritis hands, you will start to understand the tensile strength, I guess, of the paper that you're working with. And you'll learn that with anything you do in crafting, I find, is what the
limits of your paper, your clay, your, paint, your paper, whatever it is that you're working with. You usually will find that limit. And that's kind of part of what the expertise part, I guess, of these things are. So yeah, and go ahead and curl it. I'm using the wide side of the curler there just because I'm trying to put more of a smooth finish on it or give it a bigger round in it. And yeah, so I'm just fiddling with it a little bit here to see what happens. Look, we made a nest. How exciting. And you could roll that in on itself. You could make like a curly Q. You could, use that just the way that it is or fill in the holes. So then we go ahead, dab it in our glue. I do realize at this point, I forgot my needle nose tweezers. I have a long set of tweezers. You'll see those show up in a little while because it's not very long that I'm willing to work without those. You do need those, especially if you're doing on-edge quilling, which is where you take paper and you're going to glue it right on the very edge. I've done some really cool animal portraits on edge before that I'll show you guys one day. They take many hours, so you just want to hold the glue down for a little while. Make sure it's nice and steady and attached. Just try to take that wrinkle out of the center. I'm not sure why I put a wrinkle in the center when the heart's not symmetrical, but I did. So there you go. And yeah, you could, like I said, you could make that paper any color you want. So if you were doing a blue heart, you could do like a baby blue or a navy blue. Or I just wanted to work on white this time. My cardstock is white, and so I find that the thicker backing, obviously, of the paper, the more stable the project is going to be. And you are going to glue these all to each other. So, yeah, they kind of become like almost like a trivet, which you wouldn't want to use as a trivet because it is paper and it would turn to mush. Yeah, so we're just going to keep rolling. I'm not going to do any fancy shapes here. I just want to make it all out of rounds. I have done hearts before where there's all sorts of different shapes in there, and maybe we'll show you basic shapes another time. Get my fingers in the glue there. There's one thing about this craft is if you don't like glue on your hands, this is probably not going to work out very well for you. I used to be one of those kids that like to put glue on their hands and then pick it off again. I don't know what that's all about. But yeah, so these colors are really nice together, I think. I mean, they are they're not all even from the same book. There are 2 floral patterns in there that are pretty identical, and they're not from the same book. So probably the same company, really. Some of these books I bought at Walmart on the cheapy clearance aisle, and some of them I bought at the dollar store, which, you know me, I'm not a huge fan of the dollar store. But every once in a while, I go in there and, maybe, like I said, quarterly, I'll go in there and get new scrub brushes for the kitchen and pick up a thing or two. But not really a big dollar store person. Too much junk. Yeah, so we're just going to keep on gluing, holding it all down, and made a little S curve there. And I'm just ripping the paper at this point. I do generally use scissors. I know a lot of people will rip the paper. I kind of go back and forth. It does. I do have a lot of torpedo blowouts here too. I see that. I know all you people who know how to quill. But I'm gluing down to a backing here, so I'm not very worried about it. A torpedo is when you are rolling out your paper and then it starts to like curl up on itself, kind of like in a cone shape. And yeah, so we're not really looking for that. We want to keep the paper as flat as we possibly can. So here you go. We have, we're going really fast here, but we now have the tweezers have come into play because not a lot of quilling you can do without them. Just applying some glue to close off the circle and then fitting it in there. It's starting to take shape. I am really enjoying those colors. And you will see me stop. I mean, I do have this on fast forward quite a lot, but you will see me stop and assess. Just look back at what colors I've got on there currently and maybe what I need a little bit more of. Yeah, that's all we're doing here. Just curling and rolling and gluing. And what I'm doing with my finger there is I'm taking the excess glue off the bottom and I'm putting it on the sides. Like I said, I don't mind the glue on my hands, so that's fine with me. For some people, I know that glue on their hands is not their thing. So dab, dab, dab in the paper. There are a lot of other cleaner ways to do this too. Like I know some people will take their glue, spread it out on a bigger dish than the one I have there, and use a credit card or a club card or whatever to like smooth it out so they're not getting big blobs on the side of their paper. Some people also use like a micro dabber. I have arthritis in my hands, so I can't squeeze those. So I just do this. I find this works out well for me. I've made lots and lots of these hearts. They sell on Etsy. I've never sold them on Etsy because I've never listed them on Etsy, but I've seen other people sell them on Etsy, and I've sold a few. But yeah, frame them up. They're really pretty. Put them on a nice background, and you could put like a baby's birth date or a wedding date on the background, and yeah, give those away to people as a gift. What am I doing here? Looks like I'm trying to get all fancy. Now, this is, I think, where I made the decision that I was really not a big fan of that solid pink paper. Oh, no, sorry. This is a different pink paper. The other pink is just a construction pink paper. The one that I used in the bottom. That paper was left over from a project I did last summer at one of the community centers here in the city where I live. We did a big Canada Day party, and I did some crafts for the kids. So I made some coloring pages, and you can always get my coloring pages for free below. Go to my Ko-fi account Coffee account, and you can download them for free. I do have a coloring book that I just released on Amazon, and I'll put a link to that below too. But that was really more of a test page for a children's book that I'm working on animating right now. So yeah, here we go, rolly, and just trying to keep the colors moving in the right direction. You don't want too much of any one thing in the same place. So yeah. Anyway, I made a craft for the kids last Canada Day, and I did some Canada flags, some salmon, and some heart shapes out of construction paper, and I just printed those off on my printer, and I cut some slots along those so the kids could weave with the strips of paper, and I had a bunch of those strips left over, so I've been looking for ways to use those in different crafts, making rainbow hearts and things like that. So one of those pieces did find their way into this project, but it just didn't really fit very well. So that's why I do eventually cover it up. Another thing that you will see happen here, and I'm not exactly sure when it happens, and I don't think I actually showed it, but I cut the heart smaller because this was getting to be a little bit more of a project than I wanted to do. So I think the shape of the heart actually changes. You'll see that the bigger part of the asymmetry is on the left, and eventually it does end up being, I believe, on the right. So I did end up cutting it down by a couple of inches. So see if you can spot when that happens. So more rolling and holding. But this Arlene's glue, it's great. It glues so fast. It just dries so fast. Lovely stuff. Also dries clear. A lot of times what you'll see me do is I will start the rolling on the awl. And like I said, I am only using my awl because the paper is so large. And I'll put a link below too, where you could get a quilling kit if you want to start quilling yourself. You can get them fairly inexpensively online, so I'll just link below. Has all the tools you need in it. Does not have that big nice set of needle nose pliers. I think I got those out of a medical kit, but they do come with some cheaper ones. But I like making my own strips of paper because that way I get to choose how thick they are, how wide they are, the quality of the paper. Sometimes in those kits you'll find that the lighter color paper are made out of a thinner paper for some incredibly strange reason. But it is a good kit to start with because it gives you some molds, it gives you some forms to that you can shape the shapes into. So if you want to make a circle and you want to make it a certain width, which I've never done. That's, if you know me at all, that's not my thing. I'm very much a wing it kind of girl, which is why sewing never quite worked out for me. Apparently there's a lot of measuring in sewing. So more of a glue it together kind of girl. What do you say? Simple crafts for a simple crafter. That's me. So yeah, here we go. We're just filling this in. And this is nice. This is like, if you enjoy like knitting and that kind of craft, I think you would really enjoy this, because it kind of covers knitting kind of things and crocheting kind of things, like that handwork where you're just sitting with handwork. I mean, this is a little harder to take with you to a doctor's office, mind you, but you can't sit in a waiting room and quill. So I'm just going through here and looking for anywhere where I don't have a structure and adding glue into those spaces to put them together. So, but yeah, this kind of covers the scrapbook craft, as well as people who like straight up quilling crafts, paper crafts, and people who like, crochet, knitting crafts. So it's a wide spectrum. I do these and then I'll leave them alone and go and do some watercolor or do some drawing or do some whatever else, and it's got my fancy that day. And then I always come back to quilling. I discovered it a couple of years ago. Sorry, gotta clear my throat here. My mom and I were talking, and she had mentioned that I should try this craft that she had been given on a card, and it was rolled paper. I think she referred to it as rolled paper. And so I went and looked it up online, yay Google, and realized that it was quilling. And I thought, oh, I like paper. I worked in an office for a number of years. I like paper. And I decided to give it a try. And I really enjoyed it. It was just kind of my thing. And yeah. Oh, you can definitely see we've changed the shape of the heart now. It's become much, much smaller, and we're much further along this heart. So here we go. Standing back, picking up some pieces. I don't think I ended up having to go back and cut more paper. I think I cut 3 or 4 strips of about 12 by 12. I put that at the beginning when I was cutting the paper, but just in case you missed it, it is about 3 or 4 strips of 12 by 12 paper. I think for this one it was about 3, because I did end up cutting the heart down quite a bit. So one way to make your project go faster, just make your project smaller, right? I was going to sit here and drink my coffee while we watch this together, and I talk over myself. Oh, trying to get that light right. It's so pretty on the edges, isn't it? It looks almost like a quilt. And the thing is generally I would take a slip of paper, and I think that you will see me try to do that. I'll take one of the strips of paper or 2 of the strips of paper, and I'll go around the edge and frame this so that it has got a closed edge all the way around. But I decided that it was so pretty that it looked like a quilt that I decided to leave it. And that's what I did. Left it. And we're getting up to the dip in the heart here, so choices have to be made as far as how to get around that bend. Oh, just little pieces of paper. I must be filling in some holes here, because I'll go back with these little pieces, and sometimes if you have a gap that's too big, you just put another circle in there, glue it to the bottom, and away you go. There we go. It's assessment time. A lot of times too, what you'll see me do is I'll take my finger and I'll measure a piece, and then I'll put my finger in the hole where I'm going to put the piece, because you go to the glue dish, and once you get back to the thing, see, I'll do that, and then I'll see where it's going to fit, and then I'll forget where I went to put it, and put it in the wrong place, which is fine, because you can always just make another piece, but you measure it, and by the time you get back to it, you're where it's going to go. Maybe just that. Maybe just me. I don't know. So here we go. We're going to keep gluing. I'm doing mostly circles here too. I do like to do the S's, I guess you'd call them. The scrolls. But yeah, mostly circles for this one. Simple circles. So looks like I'm cutting the strips in either half or about thirds. A full strip of that paper 12 strip by half, which would be 12 inches by a half-inch strip, would just be, it would be fine. You could use it, but it would make a big piece. And I don't really want big pieces in there. It's so neat, isn't it? You see all the different tones as you move the pages around. I just love them. And I enjoy making them, and I like looking at them. Guess that's a good craft. I did use some of the light blue in there. I did end up using a little bit of it, just you can see where here in the top. And it does break up all of that color a little bit. The white is always good for helping break up color. You find that even in watercolor painting, you want to let room for the light to be, leave some room for the light. Dab, 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 blob, blob, blob. And we're getting up near the top now, so this is where you can start to make some fun choices. Because you do want to make sure that all your colors are right. You want to make sure that you have enough, you're flowing good. And also that your edges are going to look cool because we're getting up near the edges, aren't we? We're getting close to the edge. Got this on super fast forward. It's like 10. This floral paper is so sweet. And I like how I have two different kinds of it that are different flowers, but one's stripes on the back and one's like that burgundy damask almost, would you call it? No, you wouldn't call it that. Yeah, so there we go. So I was able to use that in a few different ways, which I really enjoyed. I've done these in all kinds of different colors too, and they're really neat. People really seem to like them. You can make little teeny ones if you want, with just a few. You can, really just use your imagination of them. I know a lot of people, they don't fill them all the way in. What they'll do is they'll pick a color that they like the background of, and then they'll do a border around the outside of the heart, and then they will do scrolls inside, or hearts inside, or flowers inside, and that kind of stuff. And those are really neat too. So you're really just limited by your own imagination. This little cork board I got at the thrift stores worked out so well for me, honestly. I think I paid like $2 or $3 for it, and it's cork, and it's 3 by 2. It's just the perfect size. I love it so much. I tried all sorts of different trays and stuff for crafting, and this seemed to work the best. I've tried like lap trays before, but they don't have any kind of edge, so you can't keep stuff on them. They have no traction, and especially with quilling, because you're using awls and quilling tools, they're round, so they just keep rolling off everywhere, which is a little bit, you get a little bit frustrated. So this is nice. I can just stick my awl and right into the cork if I want to. So if you quill or you try this, let me know below. I'd really like to see what you do. And if you make a heart like this on Instagram or whatever, tag me so I can see it. My Instagram is August95Arts. So you can tag me there. August95Arts on Instagram. And you may see 1 or 2 or 500 of these hearts there. Okay, that's an exaggeration. I haven't made 500. But feels that way some days. We've slowed back down again. I think in total, so this video is about 30 minutes, and I think in total this took me a couple of hours. It take a couple of hours to do. So if you're watching a movie, do this while you're watching a movie. So cool. I think they're so cool. I mean, look at the colors in there. And when you pick that up and you, what did I do? Put that in slow-mo? Slow-mo and then super fast-mo. Is your head spinning yet? Well, we're going to finish this. See, sometimes I will, because I do cut my own paper and I don't know exactly if they're exactly perfect all of the time. Especially the end pieces, they do have a tendency to like slide on your paper cutter. I will hold them up against the edge of the heart just to see, because you don't really want them sticking out. Unless, I mean, I have done hearts before where the height in the center is higher than the heart, the height going out towards the edges. So it has like this canonical, is that the right word? Mountain. It has a mountain shape. And that's kind of cool too. So look how close to the end we're getting here. That's fun. A few more pieces and we'll be done. And then you can cut out the edges if you want to. Don't just be really careful when you cut out those edges, because if you do cut too close, you will your stuff will start popping off. So you cut out the edges here at the end and put it in a nice frame with some nice words on the back, and you have a craft you can sell, or you have something to decorate your home with, or a gift to give this wedding season, or Valentine's Day is coming up. So, make a heart for the one you love. Make a heart for your mom. She'll like it. So you can go ahead and put them in shadow box frames, and they look really pretty. Shadow box frames can be a little bit hard to come by. I found some at Michael's, but they do have glass in them, unfortunately. If you're shipping, that's a problem. But you can order plexi online. I'll put a link below for you. And also, yeah. So we're almost done here. Look at us go. And last few pieces going to go in here. We're going to clean up the edges a little bit. And we'll be all ready to frame it up. Give it to someone as a gift. Won't that be lovely? And I will betcha your friends have not seen something like that before. There we go. Well, thanks so much for joining me, everybody. I really do appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. If you make one, don't forget to send me a little notice online. Let me know. August95Arts on Instagram. and I'll put some links below for you. But this is a low barrier entry art form, so everyone can try it if they want. Thanks for joining me in the craft room, everybody. Let's do this again soon. We have lots of rainy days here, so lots of opportunity to try. Have a wonderful day. Hug the ones you love. Be kind to each other. We'll talk to you soon.